guys. Hello, everybody. Good morning. I'm Rebecca. I'm your host, and I'm so honored and excited to be hosting this live event brought to you by Sparker, the live virtual dating app. Very happy to kick off week 2 of Sparker's Self-Empowerment Hour. I'm actually super excited for this one. This week, we're going to be discussing self-confidence, fighting depression, and realizing your self-worth. As always, let's thank Sparker for making all of this possible. Whether you're looking for dating or making new friends or literally just a buddy, just to nerd out with or talk to, this app makes it possible to meet with somebody face-to-face about common interests that you guys have. You don't have to worry about catfishing or making any weird, quirky, awkward headlines. I mean, who has time for that? And if you guys can stick around for the end for a Q&A, our speakers are going to be more than happy to answer any questions that you have. And without further ado, I'm so pumped for this. Please welcome our first speaker, Ellie Erickson, relationship and life coach. And Ellie, also, if you could stick around for the end for the Q&A as well. But the floor is yours.
Hello, thank you so much for having me. Of course, I'll stick around to the end. You have some other awesome speakers coming in. I wouldn't want to miss that. So I'm going to share my screen. I made up a little quick deck so we can just get into that and we will get started. All right. So I am a dating, relationship, and life coach. And so that is what I'm going to be talking about. And it's a little crazy with how things are going right now in 2020. So I know that all the tips could really probably be helpful for anybody, whether you are in it, whether you're like dating or in a relationship or just have a life in 2020. So who am I? I am Ellie Erickson. Like she said, I'm a life coach and I call myself a dating hype girl because I really just like encouraging people to live their best lives. And that always translates into, in dating, just being the person who always cheers you on and kind of helps you get to where you want to be. So I'm going to give 3 tips. Hopefully you find some like value in at least one of them. But my first tip is that your relationships matter. So whether that is in dating or your relationships with your partner or with your family, this tip can kind of be applied to all of those. And I want you to have fun when you're doing it. So I know a lot of times like we're on this Zoom call right now and you're going to be Zooming and FaceTiming with a bunch of different people in your life, but there's some fun activities that you can do even on a first date or if you've been in a relationship for years to get out of that routine. So on Zoom, you can do a trivia night. There's a bunch of websites that have options for that. You could, one of my favorite things that my clients like to do is they do like cooking virtually. So you go to the grocery store, you buy your ingredients and they're the same ingredients, but you could be states or countries away. And then you FaceTime or Zoom and have that, cooking session where you're cooking together but apart, and then you can eat that meal together. So it really kind of builds that bond, whether it's a first date or 100th, you can really have fun with that one. Netflix, of course, we all love Netflix, but there's this cool thing called Netflix Party where you can actually watch something together when you're not together. So before my boyfriend and I, we were long distance. And so before Netflix Party, we would have to be like FaceTime and be like, okay, 1, 2, 3, go. But now you don't have to do that. So you can watch a show together even when you're apart. Another thing is like scavenger hunts. You can set up scavenger hunts to do, which is super fun. You can work out or do yoga, charades, and also one of my favorite ones, if you're kind of an artist, is Netflix or YouTube has like paint lessons. So Bob Ross or just really any artist on YouTube can help you paint, and art is all beautiful, but if you want, you can even make it like a competition of it and have people poll on Instagram and see who won or who likes it more. So those are all some really great things that you can do. And that's like I said, it doesn't matter if you're dating, in a relationship, or with your family, your relationships matter. So have fun with it. Even during the time of the pandemic in 2020, you can still do that stuff. So that is my first tip. My second tip is you have the power over your day. This was really important for me starting in the pandemic when people are furloughed and people can't go to work and people can't go out because everything just seems so chaotic and like you don't have control over a lot of things going on. And so what I want to recommend is that at the beginning and end of your day, it's really important to have a routine, because no matter what happens, you know that you have that power over the beginning and end of your day, so you end cap it. And so you can have all this craziness that goes on in between it, but you will have that knowledge that everything at the beginning and end of your day is in your control. And so normally what that does for people is it brings down that anxiety, it brings down that stress level. You stop worrying about it so much because you know that at least you can control that aspect of your life. So for me and for my clients, I recommend in the morning, starting off, don't look at your phone right away when you wake up. That's kind of a habit, especially when we all have like an alarm on our phone that goes off and then it's right there. And then we start scrolling Instagram and Facebook. But what I recommend is keeping that away for about the first hour after you wake up. So what I recommend doing instead is waking up and starting your day off with gratitude, get a gratitude journal and some affirmations. So what's great about starting your day off with gratitude is that it trains your mind to start looking for things that you are grateful for. So if every morning you wake up and you have to list 5 things that you're grateful for in your life, then your mind starts to look for those things. So you wouldn't normally notice, but when you get the best spot at the grocery store, you're like, oh my gosh, yes, I'm so grateful for that. Or when somebody does something, really nice for you, or just holds open the door, you're like, oh, that is just so nice. I'm so grateful for that. And so your mind starts looking for it. And I think that's really important during this time, because we are so susceptible to just being like, the world is falling apart because everything is going wrong. But when you notice things that are going right, it helps you look for those things more. So start off your day with gratitude and affirmations. Affirmations really just the things that you want to remind yourself. So if that's, I provide value and people want to work with me. Or if sometimes you kind of struggle with your appearance, then I am beautiful and I am empowered, and just all of these things that kind of remind you and tell your mind again that that's how you want to live your life. Also some sort of movement, so whether that's stretching or a workout, amazing ways to start your day. Then everything can be crazy in the middle, but even in that, you can remind yourself that at least at night, I'm going to be able to do what I want to do. So, so at night, I recommend like reading a book right before you go to bed. And also, again, do not have your phone right at night. That kind of doesn't help you fall asleep. And so I recommend putting that away about an hour before you go to bed and reading that book. So hopefully you guys can start doing that, and you'll notice right away how helpful that can be in your life. So that is my second tip. And my third and final tip is to live life as if everything is rigged in your favor. That is one of my favorite quotes. And I think that it's really important right now, because it's like the same thing with gratitude, really easy to just fall victim to the thinking of everything is going wrong to us, when in reality, if you change your thinking to everything happening for you, even in the worst situations, you can find meaning. But I also want to remind you that sometimes there's going to be things in life where you are not going to be able in that moment to find meaning. You are going to be like, I don't know why this is happening and I can't see why. But I'm sure, like, think of it for yourself. Just take a second. Think of a time in your life where something bad happened to you, and that now you're so glad it happened because you either grew from it or you learned from it or it pushed you in a different direction. We all have those stories. And so if we can train our mind and train ourselves to think about it as everything happening for us rather than everything happening to us, and to live life as if everything is rigged in our favor, things just get so much easier during this time, because it's a lot easier to navigate those situations when you have this mindset. So if you guys, I'm going to stick around until the end. So if you have questions, and of course you can always ask them there. But if you think of something later, which I normally do last minute, you can go ahead. You can go to my website, ellieerickson.co. You can always email me, ellie@ellieerickson.co, or on Instagram, find me at ellieerickson, and I would be happy to answer those for you. So thank you so much for having me. I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and I'm going to pass it over.
Okay. Wow. Thank you. That was honestly amazing. And I think the second point you brought up, that is something that I struggled with the most. I was so stressed out by not having a routine. And so I think it's important to do that. And then you can finally breathe and have a quarantine schedule. That's what I was calling it. But
Exactly.
Yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to hear the other speakers too.
All right, so up next, we have Sam Howard, depression coach and founder of The Inner Edge Global. Over to you, Sam.
Hi, thank you. Ellie, that was so beautiful. And you know what a gorgeous segue as well for me, because that last point that you made about everything happening for us can also be related to the hardest, most painful things as well, right? Ultimately, you end up moving through it and it ends up being a gift because you can share all of your learnings through that hard time with other people. And so that is just a perfect segue into what I want to speak about, because depression is a heavy topic, and I think it's very difficult to speak about, because I think there's such confusion around what it really is, what it's not, and how everyone deals with it on different levels, because it's so personal to every single one of us. And I just want to go into a little bit about how I came to do this work and bring some clarity around what I have found depression to be and to not be, and then also just give you a tool to support you in your day-to-day life, to pull you through what you're dealing with rather than avoiding it, because ultimately at the other end, life happens for you and you can figure that out once you've moved through it. So I'm born and raised in Hong Kong. So I spent most of my life in the Asian upbringing and the alternative traditional Chinese medicine, scene, I suppose. So I was very alternative growing up, and I dealt with depression from the age of 15. That's when I fell into a really deep depression, and that lasted for 13 years for me. So it was heavy, and it was one thing after another. The depression triggered a lot more health issues, anxiety, panic attacks, emotional eating, alcoholism. Oh my goodness, it was just layer on layer on layer. And this is what happens, and this is where I want to bring a little bit of clarity, because I managed to heal completely from depression, which when I started telling people about, I was getting all these questions, because I think we don't have an understanding that it's healable. We think that it is just something we have to manage the rest of our life. So that's why I'm passionate about what I do now, is I provide healing tools to get through and out of depression, not just manage it for the rest of your life. And I think, that's a lot of people knowing that would want to take that route, because managing it is just this horrible little rat race, really, isn't it? It's an up and down, up and down. Yeah, so it's learning to ride it through and out. So depression is different to feeling depressed. And this is something I like to touch on, because we as human beings have the capacity to feel everything, right? We can feel all the good and all the uncomfortable as well. So our capacity is just huge on either side, the range. And feeling depressed is natural. We all feel depressed at one point or another, but it's the understanding that feelings are just that. Feelings come in and come out. They move through. So feeling depressed, you're allowed to feel depressed. You have the right to feel however you feel. It's when you get stuck in the depressed feeling and the depression sits in, that it covers and taints your life, right? So that a depression is when you've really sunk in and it really is tainting. Within the depression, you feel up and down, you feel good and bad, you feel happy and sad, but the depression is this overlying, it's like a dark cloud that covers and taints everything. So that's very different. If you're feeling depressed, you're allowed to feel depressed. You can move through and out of it. You can shift your state. You can snap out of it. That's when you can. But it's when the depression sits in, that is not such a simple snap out of it situation. That requires more of the deeper work. And I have 2 questions that you can ask yourself if you feel you're dealing with a depression. The first one is, where in your physical body does the depression sit? If it was to be a physical place in your body, where would it be? And the second question is, if the depression within you had a message for you, what would the message be? Because it's all messages. Everything we feel is a message in some way, shape, or form. So it's just leaning into the wisdom of your body and listening and learning and taking the next step from there. And depression, again, being a different sort of cloud covered for your life, the reason why it gets to that point, and I think this is also very misunderstood, we can understand when someone experiences a very traumatic event in their life. Maybe they've lost a loved one. We understand, we get that's an extreme trauma. And if someone was to deal with depression after something like that, we all have this collective understanding that makes sense. But what is really overlooked, and for most of us, this is what we end up dealing with, is we go through life accumulating mini traumas, little t traumas, right? So that time you sent a message to the wrong person, sent a voice message to the wrong person, and you felt it, and you felt like you were going to be sick. That's a little trauma. That's, that makes you feel your whole body is not okay with that. Or even when you were a child and your mum said you couldn't have the chocolate before dinner and you were devastated, or you couldn't stay 5 more minutes with your friends, or you got grounded, or there's so many things. Maybe you failed something. Maybe you broke up with somebody. Like, there's all these traumas that we pick up in our lives. And what we don't realize is that it fills up inside of us like a trauma bucket. I think of it like a trauma bucket. And so the mini traumas, the little rocks that go in, will fill up the bucket. And once the bucket is full, it tips and it manifests as something. So for some of us, it manifests as depression. For other people, it manifests as anxiety. For others, it's physical pain. For others, it can be anything, really. Self-harm, addictive behavior. It can be cancer. It can be all sorts of things. And each one of us is more prone to having certain manifestations, certain outcomes, certain symptoms. So I feel then it makes a lot more sense and brings a lot more importance to dealing with the mini traumas that you deal with in your life, the upsets and the hurts that don't seem like a big deal, but they are over time, right? They add up over time. So I want to give you a tool that you can use to address these day-to-day mini traumas. And so you can start to see what it feels like to process these as you go through them, and hopefully feel like you're lighter in your body. So the tool's name is Name It to Tame It, and there's 4 steps. So the first one is to feel. And we miss this one. So we want to go straight to the mind. What am I dealing with? So the first step is actually to go into your body. And I do this with a little body scan, which is where I just close my eyes and I put my attention into my toes, and then into my ankles, and then into my knees. And you move your attention in your mind's eye all the way up to the top of your head and sit and feel into your body and just breathe. So first you feel, you come back to the feeling. The second step is to name it, to name what are you feeling with your adult rational mind. Is it sadness? Is it frustration? Is it irritation? Is it depression? Is it anxiety? Just name it without any judgment. That's what it is. It's the facticity of it, right? This is just how it is. And then the third step is to go deeper. So now you need to sit in this. Okay, I'm experiencing anger, or I'm experiencing a depression. Where do you feel it in your body? What's the message? Is it yours? Because a lot of the time, if you're empathetic, you're taking on a lot of people's stuff, your children, your partner, your family, and especially in this pandemic, the collective anxiety, right? Everyone's felt it on some level. And so is it yours? Because you can own and process your stuff, but if it's not yours, you need to release it because it's not for you to process, okay? So there's all these sorts of things that you can think of and ask and go deeper and put into context. Does it make sense that I'm dealing with anxiety right now? Yes, it probably does. It probably does. It probably makes a huge amount of sense why you're feeling the way you feel. And again, you have the right to feel however you feel. So once you've gone deeper and you've given yourself a bit more context and you've clarified a few things around where you're at, now you need to process it. Now you need to let it out. And this can look like anything. So it could be a cry, a good scream, a good dance, go for a run, whatever, to move the energy through your body, because emotion is emotion, right? Energy in motion. So to move it through and out of your body, you have to move it. You have to move your physical being. Can you do it with breath work? Anything. Just move. And so if you have that intention as you process and as you move your physical body, moving the emotion, move intuitively and let it out. And that is the 4-step process. And it's incredible how much lighter you feel, because what we want you to be doing on a day-to-day basis is addressing your traumas that you pick up along the way, so that your trauma bucket doesn't fill and tip and manifest and then ripple into multiple issues. And it's okay if it's already done that for you, right? There's plenty of ways you can absolutely use this tool. There's plenty more things you can do to support yourself if you've already manifested into that space, and it's okay. And so just to review the tool, name it to tame it is the name of it. So it's first, feel. Secondly, name it. Third, go deeper, bring context to what you're dealing with. And fourth, process through it. So thank you. That's my little tips for you. I hope it helps, and I'll stick around for any questions if you want to run off anything I've said. And I mainly hang out on Instagram, so you can find me at Sam_M_Howard. And yeah, I look forward to chatting more.
Wow, Sam, thank you so much. I was really into that conversation. I think the most important part, what I recognized, was just bringing awareness. Before quarantine, everyone's lives were all over the place anyway. And so I think a positive part about dealing with stuff in quarantine is just more time to bring awareness to it. And that's exactly what I got out of that. So thank you so much. That was amazing. And our next speaker, last but finally not least, Stephanie Galavores, right? I said it right? Perfect. Yes. Okay. Positive psychology coach. Stephanie, take it away.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, and thank you to the team at Sparker for inviting me to this really cool event. I'm very happy to share it with Ellie and Sam. Ellie, great tips. I especially love the one about gratitude. That has made a huge difference in my life, because it's just stopping and recognizing it, isn't it? We dwell on the negative things. Remember one time it really hit me. I was in a car, it started pouring rain, and then the traffic hit. And I was like, bloody hell, my God, traffic. And I stopped. I was like, how can I flip this? Like, I'm in a car. I'm not waiting for a bus outside. I can put the music on and sing along to whatever I want to, because no one can hear me. And I'm not late for anything. Like, sure, there's traffic, but what am I in a rush for? And I just immediately felt so much more calm and relaxed. And if we start practicing it more, it's like a muscle. It strengthens and it grows. And so cool. And Sam, really, thank you for being vulnerable and sharing your story with us. I actually experienced a massive panic attack 3 or 4 years ago. And it changed my life, because I've always been a positive person and an optimist and like, everything's great. And when this happened, I felt it in my whole body. I thought I was dying, and I didn't know what it was, because I'm like, but I don't panic. I don't have stress. I'm the happy one. And I had to actually stop and reflect and look at my life and say, I don't want this to happen again. It's in my control. What can I do? How can I prevent this? And that's actually what led me to positive psychology and coaching psychology. Because not only for myself, I didn't want to experience that again, but I didn't want anybody to experience that again, because it's pretty traumatizing. I'm sure you both can relate. So today I'm talking with you about self-love. When we think about love in general, we tend to think about something we give to people outside of us, your partner, your family, your friends, colleagues maybe. And then we expect to receive love back. And we search for it and we seek it out, we crave it. And a lot of that is tied into validation as well. But actually the foundation of really having a good quality of life and great relationships is cultivating your self-love. It's a topic that people hear about now, but it kind of makes people uncomfortable. We're not used to it. We're not used to praising ourselves or recognizing the things that we're great at. It makes us uncomfortable. We don't want to appear egotistical, but it's time to get over that. Because to be honest, if we talk about filling buckets, the more you fill your own bucket with love, it just grows exponentially. The more you have to give, and the more you give, the more you receive back. So it all really starts with what's inside. And often when I work with clients, no matter what they come to me with, whether it's something in their professional life or something with their relationships or family, we always go back to their self and what do you want out of this situation? And it used to shock me how many people just never ask themselves, it's not about what I want. I said, of course it is. It's your life. Everything is about what you want. And once you start there, then you can become like very clear and you gain this clarity and you start living your life authentically and you go in the direction that you need to go. And it's really great. So because this is difficult, I wanted to share as well 5 tips that you can start. They're easy. They don't take much time out of your day. And you can practice hopefully 1 or 2 really vibes with you and you can start from tomorrow. So the first one is to make time each day to do something that you love. It sounds so simple, but we love to be busy, as Rebecca said. My God, our lives are full of, I have to do this, I have to do that, and have to, should. It's like, ugh, adulting, right? Like, I have to go to work, and when I come home, I have to do the dishes, and I have to do that, and then it's time to go to bed. And where was your joy? Like, when did you just play? So anything, whether it's doing art or playing music or singing, you know, cranking up some Whitney Houston from the 80s and just singing for the fun of it. And just playing. Like this year I challenged myself to do some more art because I don't consider myself an artist. So I said, I think when I was a child, I loved to draw. And I lost that. So I bought myself a really pretty book and I said, I'm going to do 40 drawings this year. And my friend said, are you good at drawing? I said, does it matter? I'm not doing it to become like, you know, featured in a gallery. I'm doing it to spend time in the moment. And that's what we call flow. And flow is when you're just fully invested in the activity that you're doing. And it's amazing when we can shut off all the other noise around us because it's really just noise most of the time. So find 10, 15, 20 minutes to do something every day that you love. The second thing, which is a bit difficult for people, is to identify your strengths because it's so much easier for us to pick ourselves apart and say what we're not good at. And we all do this. And if I were to ask someone, what are your best qualities? What are you good at? It makes them super uncomfortable. I get it, but again, it doesn't have to be super egotistical. How can you identify your strengths if you don't know where to start? There are some surveys online. One is called the VIA Character Strength Survey. So basically you fill it out, it takes maybe 15, 20 minutes. And what they've done is they've identified 24 core quality characteristics and it ranks them. So if you take this survey, you can just see what are my top 3, what are my top 5. And then you can take it further. Once you recognize what your top strengths are, then you can look back and say, how have I used these strengths in my life to overcome challenges in the past? How do I use them to create a great environment for me and my loved ones or to achieve success in the workplace? And when you start focusing on those, again, what you focus on grows. Another activity I love to do with clients, which at first makes them super uncomfortable, is to write down your strengths and your best qualities. So in order to get them out of their head, I say, okay, how would your best friend describe you? What are the words your closest friends would use to describe you? It's not you saying it, so don't worry, it's somebody else. So I start to ease in and I write those down. It's like, okay, your favorite teacher from high school, what would she say about you? And they kind of open up a bit more. And by the end, I finally say, okay, now what about you? What would you say? And before you know it, there's 3 sheets of paper of all their best qualities and their posture just changes. It makes them so happy. And what once made them a bit nervous to talk about, they feel empowered, which at the end of the day, that's what we want, to feel our own power and strength and self-love. So one of the 2 options, go for it. Don't worry about it. You can keep the list to yourself if you don't want to share it with somebody else. No one else needs to see it, so go to town. The third thing, which is my absolute favorite, is journaling. I've been journaling since I was a teenager, and it's really helped me. It's like my form of therapy. So for people who don't like writing, journaling is different. It's fun, it's free for all, it's whatever you want to write about. You can have the routine in the morning or in the evening. You can write about things that make you happy, things that make you angry. So in the past, when I've had a situation or a conflict, either with a work colleague or someone else in my life, and I'm so angry, I'm like, what do I do with this anger? Because if you don't do anything with it, it sits inside and it festers and it grows. And a month goes by and you hate this person for something so small. So when you take the time to journal, you're getting out of your head. You're taking all the thoughts that are just bouncing around aimlessly, and you're giving it a somewhere else to live that is outside of you. If you are not comfortable just free-form journaling, there's different activities you can do, like write a letter to your future self, or alternatively, you can write a letter as your future self to your current self about all the great things that you've achieved. It's like, Steph, we live in a big house, the view of the ocean, the pool in the backyard, we finished work early. And it gives you then some clarity and something excited to look forward to. The fourth thing is to change the voice inside of your head. Everybody has a voice inside of their head, and she's a Debbie Downer. Like, this is such a negative voice, and it's taking up space in your life, in your head. It's like the flatmate that you never wanted, that's always there. It's what you hear more often than when you're talking to friends and family and loved ones. And it tends to focus on the negative. I don't know why, but what we can do to change that is to actually change the voice itself. So make it the voice of your best friend, or make it the voice of someone silly. And now if you sit there and just picture for a second that nagging voice who's like, you're so lazy, you slept in, or you shouldn't have eaten that, just change it. Can you picture your best friend saying those things to you? Hopefully, no, they would never. They're your biggest cheerleader. They're like, yes, you're amazing, you did it again. Don't worry if you didn't get that next time. And it seems silly at first, and it might seem a little bit uncomfortable at first, but look, the end result in all of these is your inner peace and your happiness and your better quality of life. So if those are the things that you want for yourself, which hopefully you do, try these. No one else needs to know about it. No one else can hear the voice. And we talk about limiting beliefs. The voice often tells us things that we can't do or are not capable of. And they're not real. We believe these limiting beliefs from something that happens from childhood, and they just are repeated over and over and over again. I'm not deserving of this. I'm not worthy. I'm not good enough for this. And the more you listen to this, the more you believe it, and you act that way. You act as if you're not worthy. You act as if you don't deserve this promotion or this relationship. It's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. So again, if you change this voice, not just the quality of the voice, but what's it saying? What's it saying to you? Is it encouraging you to go for it? You will really notice over time that it makes a massive difference in how you live your life. Finally, the fifth thing is meditation. And this is something that I'd struggled with on and off, because I was one of those that's like, I'm not doing it right. I don't know how to do it. I have too much happening up here. I don't know how to be Zen. But I pictured a good meditator, as someone who can sit in complete silence with their legs crossed for hours, and nothing bothers them, and they're so peaceful and happy 24/7. And that's just not the truth. Meditation, like a lot of these things, is a tool that builds over time and with practice. It's like going to the gym. If you go to the gym every day and you lift weights, you're gonna get stronger. If you sit with yourself for 15, 20 minutes a day and meditate, over time, it'll become more natural, it'll become easier, and actually the benefits are just incredible. There's loads of scientific research as well that shows the changes to the brain, the actual brain patterns, and how you process and react that are improved through regular meditation. Now, there are so many different forms of meditation. And so when people say, I don't like it, or like, I don't like yoga, well, what do you mean by that? There's so many different types. What are you calling yoga? Same with meditation. There's meditations where you completely clear your mind of thoughts. There are meditations where you're visualizing something that you want for yourself, guided meditations, moving meditations. I used to love to just walk and meditate. I'm like, yes, I'm meditating right now. So if you're stuck and you think you don't know how to do it, but you're curious to get started, I recommend, there's a couple of apps that you can use that are guided meditations. There's a lot of guided meditations on the internet and on YouTube. One, if you want to get started today, is a loving kindness meditation. So basically, you sit with yourself in a quiet place, relax, control your breath, and you visualize loved ones beside you to the right and left. And you picture yourself receiving love from them, and love and support and good intentions. And you feel that they want the best for you. And you have to really visualize it. And then the next layer out are acquaintances, maybe colleagues, neighbors that you pass, the guy who walks his dog every morning past you, and you feel them sending you love and sending you support and good intentions. And then the next layer out, maybe people you don't even know, just the world in general. And with each layer, it becomes more and more powerful. And after you're receiving all of this love and good intentions, then you send it out to the ones next to you, to the ones the next layer out, and then finally to the general public. So you can find this loving kindness meditation online. Like I said, all of these tips might seem awkward at first. It's hard for us to identify that we need to love ourselves. Seems so weird to say, but it's so powerful. And the person who benefits is not just you, but everyone in your life. So hopefully one or more of these tips will vibe with you, and you can get started this week.
Stephanie, thank you so much. That was awesome. So the first thing that popped into my mind, this is so funny. My mom, on her fridge, if you go into her apartment, she has a picture of me, picture of my brother, of her dog, and then she just has like a wheel like of selfies of herself like on her wall. And my brother and I, we used to like make fun of her. We're like, why do you have just like pictures of yourself? And her response is so funny. She's just like, I love my look that day. Like when I look at that picture, I just look so happy. And I'm like, okay, that makes so much sense. So it's little stuff like that where you look at it and you're like, okay, why does my mom have selfies of herself on her fridge? But she looks back at those moments and it makes her feel good about herself, makes her feel happy. I die laughing at that. That's like too good. So my mom's been doing it right, I guess. But yeah, so guys, we actually have some questions coming in. And the first one is for Ellie. This is from Mimi. Tell us one tip on how to rig our life for happiness.
One tip to rig your life for happiness. Well, I think that we got some great tips in that past little lesson there, but I think really, if I had to give one tip, it would be to, I know I already talked about this, but seriously, gratitude is going to be the one thing I think that I would recommend more than anything else, just because it's the one thing that once you start doing it, you're not going to want to stop. And it's the reason that so many powerful entrepreneurs and people that you admire and don't even know do it. It's because it works. And so if I could say one thing that I could ask you to do to just try something to increase that happiness, I would say start your day or end it, but I prefer starting it with 5 things that you are grateful for and really feel it. So not just the same thing every day, like my coffee, my this, my that, but think about moments in your life and put yourself in that situation and really visualize it. Like there's times when even when I've done it, I've like started to like get a little teary because it's like that impactful. So put yourself in that moment and really feel how you felt in that. And you'll just, that's the one thing I could say. That's my best tip for you.
Amazing. Thank you. And we have a question for Sam from Edgar. I felt chest pain from a depression-like feeling. How can I make this feeling go away?
Thank you for the question, Edgar. Okay, so there's layers to this, right? It's not a quick fix. It's amazing that you've identified where in the body the depression is hurting, and chest is a lot to do with breathing and speaking and taking in life, right? So I would just invite you to go deeper into what the message is behind this. What is the depression? What is the pain trying to tell you about your life? What is it trying to say? What's not aligned with you? What's not working for you? Where can you make some shifts, especially as the world is shifting so rapidly at the moment? It is a great invitation to say, where are the things in my life not working, and what can I do to shift them to something that does work for me? And that would be my starting point. But I would also add with the language, when you're talking about getting rid of it or removing it or stopping it, ideally you need to invite it. You need to invite it in so that you can move through it and out of it, rather than get rid of it, because it has a message for you. So if you can validate the fact that the depression is there and you're dealing with it and it hurts, if you can just be in that, learn the lessons, the messages, and move through step by step to realign your life, that will be, I'd say, the most powerful thing you can do. I hope that helps.
Oh, cool. Actually, Sam, we have one more for you. Well, not one more, but another one for you. This is from Ashika. What do you recommend doing to address personal traumas if someone is scared of reliving that moment or those moments?
Oh, absolutely. This is such a great question, because this is where the trauma, when you, like you say, when you relive it, it brings up all the raw emotion, right? So with this, I would recommend anything that bypasses the mind and gets directly into the body. So when we were talking about the step 4 of processing, I would just encourage you to do a lot of emotion, right? Energy and motion, move it around and through your body, because as soon as your mind is engaged in the memory and the visualization, it's going to trigger all the raw emotion right back up. So you need to bypass the mind. I would go directly to breath work. That's my personal preference and recommendation to everyone, because you are so focused on your breath, and the body is going to heal itself from the inside out without you engaging the brain and engaging the mind and getting sucked in to the visualization of it. That would be my best tip. Move, process, emote, and just let your body do what it knows how to do. And we think our minds are so clever, but the body's better. I hope that helps.
Thank you, Sam. So we have a question for Stephanie. How should someone make time for self-love activities?
It's a great question, making time, because most people say that they don't have enough time in the day for themselves. And it's not about having time, it's about making time. And again, it's easier said than done, but one of the ways that I think is good to make time is to set boundaries. People are constantly asking of us, people from work, our family, we have different commitments that we need to address every day, but stand firm in what's important to you. And if doing these activities that can increase your self-love are so beneficial, ask yourself, okay, how much time a week or a day am I willing to devote to myself? And hopefully it's more than even 10 minutes a day. And then have a look at your schedule where things are sucking your energy and your time, and learn this amazing thing I love to do, learn how to say no. Because we struggle with this a lot, because again, it goes back to that outward validation from others and wanting to be liked and wanting to please other people. So when they ask of us, okay, how can I help? What can I do? Let me drop my own stuff to help somebody else. And in the moment, it seems really valiant and like you're doing a service to another person, and serving others is great, but you can't give from an empty cup. And sooner or later, you're going to burn out. So people will become used to you saying no if you do it with respect, and if you do it with a really good reason, they will accept it over time. We're just so fearful of it, and then people get used to us saying yes. It might be shocking at first, but it's worth it. It's so worth it. It's a great use of time.
Thank you, Stephanie. We have another question for Ellie. In a time like this, when it's tough to meet new people, but there's so much amazing opportunity to hang out remotely and still enjoy the moments, as you mentioned, how do you recommend finding new people to hang out with when you can't go out and meet them?
Yeah, thank you for asking. That's a great question. So I guess I would kind of spin it differently depending on whether you are trying to date them or if you're just trying to make friends. If you are trying to date them, then of course, I know a lot of people have these hesitations about the apps. So stuff like Hinge or Tinder or Bumble or, up and coming Sparker. So, but there's so many things that you can do that really, even if you have this hesitation about going on the apps, you can get on them, meet these people, send a few messages, and then get off of them as quickly as possible. So that is something I recommend, because a lot of times what happens is people get stuck in this like pen pal phase of being on the apps. And so they get bored. And so that's when things fizzle out. So I would say if you're going to use the apps to meet people, get off of them as quickly as possible and do those FaceTime and Zoom dates, like I said. Other things I would say is there are still things that most of us are doing routinely enough. So, unless you're having your groceries delivered every week, which I know some people are, you are still going out to grocery stores. You are still, going out on walks. And a lot of these times, like, you can meet people out in the world that way. There's also so many platforms like Instagram or Facebook or all of these things where people are really looking for connection. And so I know sometimes it's scary to like get outside of our comfort zone and reach out to that stranger we don't know, but I promise more likely than not, they're going to be so excited that you said something, because everybody right now just wants that human connection. And so step outside of your comfort zone and reach out on those platforms that you wouldn't normally, because people are going to be very excited to meet you and do all those things like I talked about. Thank you for asking. I hope that helped.
Amazing. Thank you. Thank you guys for sticking around. By the way, we have a few more. This is for Sam again. When conquering depression or anxiety, aside from your 4-step tool, do you recommend taking on any hobbies or sports to help focus on the mind and build self-confidence?
Oh, that's such a great question. So absolutely. So it's so multi-layered, and the thing I've experienced and found with depression is the reason why it manifests, right, is because there's lots of little things that are out of alignment. And so it's very much a holistic, you do have to look at your life holistically. Every single aspect of your life has to come into consideration when you're looking to shift and make changes to relieve and heal the depression. So if you love sports, and if you love to move, and you love to engage with people, and you love to do that, absolutely. That's incredible. It's not just good for your body, obviously it's good for your mind. And again, energy in motion, it's good for the healing because you're moving through what you're dealing with. Yeah, I think that's fantastic.
Thank you, Sam. Stephanie, we have a question from Mary. I used to see myself in such a bright light, but lately I feel like I can't recognize the old me. Your tips are amazing, but I wanted to ask, what's the best way to either reinvent myself or find the real me again?
That is a really good question. I think we have these moments throughout our lives where we have to step back and say, am I living authentically? Do I love where I am in the world right now? I've certainly done it about 3 or 4 times in my life, at least so far. So the first thing, Mary, is that don't stress. It's completely normal. And it's the fact that you're even asking yourself this question shows that you're hyper aware and you are already ready to make the next step. I'm not sure if it's for you specifically around your career or your lifestyle or wanting to make a massive change in your life, but what it really comes down to first is to identify your deep core wants and values. And again, it sounds so simple to say, what do I want? And you can write it down. But dig a bit deeper, because I think what often happens is we're used to saying what we want in relation to what we think we should be saying we want. So what society says we should want, or what our family says we should want. And it's a prison. You can look back on your life at 7 years old and say, why did I do that career? Just because it impressed my parents and they said I should do that? Or why did I stay in that relationship? Because everyone thought we were a great couple and I didn't want to hurt his feelings. So Mary, like, I would really ask you to spend time with yourself in silence and go a bit deeper and say, okay, I forgive myself for what's happened in the past. I am where I am, but today is the starting point. Where do I want to be? What do I want my day to look like? And it sounds so simple, but what time do I want to wake up? And what do I want to spend my morning routine doing? How do I want to feel? And it's a good starting point. And then you can get into the specifics, but really it helps to talk with somebody else about these things as well, because oftentimes we're used to thinking in a very small way. And especially with coaching clients, I see that it kind of opens them up. And there's so many different alternative options that they hadn't even considered before. So start with yourself and then maybe talk to somebody else and get ready for this amazing change that's coming.
Can I tag off that? Because that's so brilliant. And I think it's so interesting. If you do ask somebody what they want, most people don't know. They've not sat to think. And so it's the same thing when I coach around depression, right? It's like, if you know things are out of alignment, you have to go through that process of figuring out what you want. And I just wanted to share a process that I use, because like you've said, you have to start with yourself. And I use it in my body. So I will, decide, let's say, like you've said, the ideal day, right? Let's say there's something you'd like to be doing and you imagine it in your mind's eye, and then you feel into your body and see how it feels. Does it feel like, you want to push your shoulders back and it feels amazing and that's it? That's like your full body yes? Or do you imagine something and your whole body kind of caves and it feels a bit, nah, I don't want that. Because exactly what you said, we're with the wrong people for the wrong reasons, or in the wrong career for the wrong reasons, because our parents said this and our friends said that, and we don't stop to kind of feel what's good for us. So yeah, you can see, is like, how do I feel about this relationship if I'm still in it 5 years from now? Does that make me feel or does it make me feel amazing? And like, see if you can tap into your body to see if you can figure out what you actually want. Because sometimes you don't know what you want. Cool.
Wow, guys, thank you so much. So we have one more question, and this is for everybody to answer, from Jeanette, for all the speakers. Do you think dating sites can cause anxiety and self-esteem issues, or what's your take on that? We'll start with Ellie.
Yay. Yeah. So do you think dating sites can cause anxiety or bad self-image? I think anything can cause anxiety or bad self-image if you allow it to. So I think that as far as dating apps, yeah, it's easier to feel rejection on them if you're not getting the response that you want, which is why with anything in life, you've got to have that inner self-confidence first before you go into anything. Because if you're going into dating, if you're going into relationships looking for validation from somebody else, you're going to be really sad even when you get what you think you want. Like if you think you want a relationship or you think you want to go on these dates, and once you go on them, you're going to just feel really not whole. Like you're not going to feel what you think that you will. So what I would recommend in those situations is really getting clear about like Stephanie said, your strengths, like your inner best self, what you're good at. And so as far as dating apps go, I think that you need to go in with that knowledge, because yes, they can be challenging if you let them be challenging. Like if you treat it like a tool to be fun and to meet new people, and you're just going into it with the confidence that yes, I'm amazing, I don't care what people these other people think of me, then you're gonna have a much better time at it, and you're gonna have a much better success rate with your dating and relationships, because you're not so reliant on what the other people are thinking of you. I'll let the other speakers take it away.
No, I love that. I absolutely love that. So great. I second everything you've just said, and you are totally in control. One of the things I've used before in this situation is when you were saying about seeking validation outside of you. So if you are on these apps and you are looking for something or someone to fill certain things for you, for certain needs, if you can identify those, are you looking for someone who just loves your company? Are you looking for someone who is going to tell you how great you are? Whatever you have to figure out, what exactly are you seeking from this person, and make a list and then give it to yourself. Like you said, you're bringing your whole self to the platform. Someone else is bringing their whole self, and suddenly you're going to have a much better connection because you're both not needing anything from each other. It is fun and playful and a much more interesting and exciting environment to get to know someone without attachment. But yeah, give it to yourself. Give whatever you're needing in someone else to yourself.
Okay, so I'm the last to speak here, and they've both said such brilliant, amazing answers. I'm not sure how much I have to add, but as Elliot said, you know, anxiety and pressure can come from many different situations. So it doesn't have to be that just dating apps give you extra. So look inside yourself. What is it about using dating apps that gives you anxiety? Is it thinking I'm one of thousands of girls who's just swiped past? Are my pictures flattering enough? Like, just first be honest with yourself about what's giving you the anxiety, and also what you're looking for. Like Sam said, what are you looking for out of the app, and what are you looking for out of your love life in general? And once you're more clear on those, you're not sitting there waiting to be chosen. I think that happens so often, and the anxiety comes from wanting to be picked or wanting to be chosen, and that's where the comparison comes. Like, oh, this girl's prettier than me, that guy has bigger muscles than me, but you're also choosing and you're also picking. I want to call it that. And it should be, you know, a meeting of two individual people. It's not like you're at a grocery store in front of like the aisle of chocolates. You know, which chocolate do I want today? It does feel a bit like that on the dating apps, but calm down. Think about what you want. Understand where the anxiety is coming from. And like Ellie said, try and have fun with it.
Wonderful answers, guys. So there were so many questions coming in. I actually missed 3. So if you guys don't mind, just answer these 3 questions, and then they're for Sam and Stephanie, and then we can start wrapping up. So Sam, this is from Lena. Anxiety has led to depression in my life. How can I heal myself?
Hi, Lena. Thank you for asking. Yes, and this is absolutely what happens. It's the ripple effect. The bucket fills, it tips, it manifested for you as anxiety, and then the next layers, the depression comes, and you're in a good space, right? You're looking to heal, because otherwise, if you ignore it continuously, it layers on layers on layers, and things get worse. So you're in a really good space to address it. How to heal? It's a huge question. I probably can't go into in depth here. You can always message me on Instagram and we can have a conversation further. But basically, it is, again, coming back into what the messages are for you. What is the anxiety trying to tell you that is unaligned, misaligned in your life? What are the messages the anxiety's teaching you? What are the messages depression is trying to tell you? So where are the things not working for you in your life? Is it your relationships? Is it your work life? Is it your personal life? Everything. Look holistically at every level and just start there. And like Stephanie mentioned, journal. So write it out. Just see what comes through. What are the messages that come through? And let your body guide you to the next step. You can do it. You can heal. That is absolutely the truth. And so just know that you can, and then just take the next best step, and that's it.
Thank you, Sam. All right, we have 2 more for Stephanie, if you don't mind. So this is from Travon. How to be positive when you're in a toxic household?
That's a big one. It's difficult. We've all been there. Look, the first thing I want to say is, when I became a positive psychology coach, a lot of people said, oh, it's not natural to be positive all the time. And I said, of course, like, life is not like that. And to be a positive person in general doesn't mean that you're gleeful every minute of the day, because it's just not going to happen. So take a little bit of pressure off yourself. If you're in a toxic household, I would say make time for yourself as much as you can. What work can you do on the inside that will improve the relationships? Because we can only control what we do. Like, we all have family members who drive us up the wall. but we can never change them as much as we would love to. We can only change how we interact, and you know, hopefully sometimes over time that actually changes the relationship. When we change our reaction to their actions, you know, it shifts a little bit in the household. If it's possible, do as much of your own thing as you can. Work on yourself. What are your goals? What do you want to accomplish? Set boundaries, as I said before. If they're taking too much from you, you're the most important person, and it's your happiness that's affected. So where it's possible, learn how to say no and make some space for yourself. And also, the final thing I'll say is, hopefully, I'm not sure in your specific situation, but a lot of times these situations are temporary. So we tend to get trapped into thinking, oh my gosh, this is going to be like this forever. But it could be just a moment in time.
Lovely, thank you. And so now we have one more, Stephanie. Please share a tip on how to boost positivity in a friend who is suffering with bad past experiences and is mostly sad, from Danny.
Okay. Danny, that's a great question, because we don't like to see our friends feeling that way. And I know you want to help. The first thing I want to say to you is, it's not solely your responsibility for your friend's positivity and happiness. But if you want to, I would say the most important thing too is listen. We're rarely listened to in life. We all love to talk, myself included. But we also love to be heard and feel seen. And sometimes people really just need to get it out. And you might be really tempted to give advice, tell them what they should do or prep them up. But sometimes people just don't even want that. Like a lot of times if I have a bad day and I come home and tell my partner, oh my God, and he says, do this, and I'm like, no, shh, shh, shh. I just want to be upset for a second. So maybe hold back a bit on giving just advice. And also find out what makes them happy. And try and add more of that into their life. If you know that they love going to the movies, invite them to the movies. If you know that they love talking about, I don't know, video games, ask them about that. It's not a distraction technique, but it's just about redirecting, you know, reframing some things. But yeah, so hopefully, I know we don't like to see our loved ones feeling upset about situations, but just as long as that person knows that you're there for them is helping, I'm sure.
Ladies, thank you so much for giving your expertise, and not only that, for giving all of us, including myself, tools to practice to make ourselves better and make everyone around us feel better. I literally couldn't have asked for a more uplifting and empowering way to start a Sunday. Thank you everybody who has tuned in and for all of your questions. Stay tuned. Next week's episode is going to be making a strong first impression, where we're going to discuss how to let your true personality shine. And do not forget, we are launching September 4th, just in time for Labor Day. And you can sign up for exclusive access to Sparker by going on meetsparker.com.